How y'all doing? I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to be showing you a resource you can use to help jumpstart getting, learning how to configure Vim. I know when I first started using Vim and wanting to configure it, one of the hurdles I encountered early on was there is so much stuff that you can do in your Vim config in terms of customizing Vim and how it behaves that it's really overwhelming. And by the way, if you hear someone yelling in the background, my wife is playing Overwatch and she gets kind of excited when she's doing that. Um, and I'm going to show you a resource that will generate for you a fairly well filled out configuration that you can either just use as is if you want, or what I also would recommend you do is use it as a basis to learn what you can do in a config so that you can create your own. Before we get started, if you've enjoyed my content, you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and make sure to subscribe down below. And my cat's tail's in the way. Latte, why do you do that, baby? And with that, let me show you the goods. So you'll see them at a site, and the site is this. It's vim-bootstrap.com, and you can use this site to generate for you basically a fully functioning Vim config based on some options you set. So if we scroll down, you'll see you have a bunch of languages you can select. Um, these control two main things. What plugins will be put in the generated config file, and what file specific configuration settings will be put in there as well. Uh, I'm not going to be using this, but I'm probably going to do like a live stream tomorrow where I piss around with Dino. So let's just put TypeScript and JavaScript in there. Uh, there's even one here for Vue if you use Vue. And then you have to select which editor. I use Neovim, and there's barely any difference between these two. It's just very minor differences, such as the certain file paths that are in the configuration file. But for in general, these two variants are almost exactly the same. So once you selected all this stuff, you're gonna hit generate, and it's gonna ask you where to save it. I'm just gonna put it in my home folder. It gets generate.vim, and come on, cats, don't do this right now. Come on now. Why didn't you do this all day? And we're gonna pop over to my other terminal, and we're gonna open this up and just kind of break it down. And I'm gonna show you what I did to help learn what you could do in the config. So we're gonna open this up. It was generate.vim. Now, when you first open this up, there's a lot of shit here. You kind of want to take it slow and just see what's going on. So you'll see the first thing here is for something called Vim plug. So what this is a plugin manager that you can use for Vim and Neovim that allows you to install and load plugins to use in Vim. And there's some other Vim Bootstrap related things here, which really aren't relevant. But let me just show you exactly what I did to kind of understand more about what you could do in a config file. So you'll see I see some things called let blah 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 blah. I don't remember if this is actually will show up in here, but basically what I did was I just used the built-in help documentation on anything that I wasn't really sure what it was doing. So I don't remember if this is actually in here. Let's say let. Is let in here? It is. So we see there's documentation for let. Sets an internal variable to the result of the expression. Okay, straightforward enough. Um, there may even be one here for, was it let G? So I don't remember if it's going to show up in the documentation or not, but I think the G prefix in front will basically that counts as being global. I think there's no G in front. It's kind of like a local variable, and I don't think it persists into other files. I forget. You'd have to verify that yourself. So here it's saying if file readable. Okay. First time I opened this up, no clue what that did. I know. So the name sounds self-explanatory, but I would rather check. So help a file readable. Okay, there's the documentation for it. Result is a number, which is true when a file with the name file exists and can be read. Okay, straightforward enough. And basically what it's doing, it's checking to see whether the plugin manager that it uses by default in this configuration is there. If it's not, it's checking whether it appears to be checking whether you can execute a program on your system called curl. Again, we'll just check real fast. It was an executable. This function checks if an executable with the name expression exists. Must be the name of a program without any arguments. Okay. So if you can't run curl, if it can't run curl, it just complains at you. Otherwise, it uses curl to grab the Vim plugin file. And okay, this is probably one of the first ones I came across. I see auto CMD, and I was like, what the hell is auto CMD? So auto CMD intro. You can specify commands to be executed automatically when reading or writing a file, when entering or leaving a buffer window, and when exiting Vim. For example, you can create an auto command to set the C indent option for files matching wildcard.c. So what this example is showing is that like if you had a if you were like looking at a file which is like .c, which would be like, I guess that'd be like a C file, like for coding in C, it would automatically set this option in it. So like what right here, what it's saying is there's a bunch of like different commands, like different events that happen. So what it's saying is if, and notice this is within an if block. If if it's in this if block, an auto command will be registered so that when Vim basically starts up on any file, that's what the star means, it's going to run this command called plug install, which is a command added from the plugin manager, which will read all of the plugins you have defined, and if they're not installed, grab them, install them locally on your system. And this is basically where you start your defining what plugins you want to use. And you will see a lot of these are kind of in here by default because they're just like genuinely helpful Vim plugins. Now keep in mind, you don't have to use these. You could go through and just comment this shit out if you don't want it. And I also, if I were you, it's kind of a better rule of thumb. You just don't install shit willy-nilly without understanding what it's doing. And these are all generally, I think, unless I don't think that you can't have it, these are all based like GitHub repositories. So you could say, well, I don't know what the hell this ale plugin is. So you would like open up your browser and go, well, what is this? So what is it? It's like Vim plugin ale. And okay, up here, is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it. Yeah, it's basically a asynchronous lint. Okay, it's a linting engine to add to Vim, and you got apparently it seems to be using the language server protocol to basically integrate with various languages, language server protocols that do linting automatically. Okay, they're straightforward enough. Sounds useful to have. Again, you don't have to use it. You can just remove this from your config if you don't want it. And then you would just go through and, you know, if something here, if you just look at it and you go, I have no clue what this is doing, just either first thing to do is just run help and just try and see if you can find anything out about it. If for some reason you're not finding anything, then you can just just Google it. See, custom bundles. Now this is what's going to show up if you've picked certain languages when you downloaded this, and you see there's specific plugins that it uses for like JavaScript and TypeScript. And this configuration by default, the way it's set up is it's meant for you to not really change this file specifically, but to basically have like another file that you use to have your own customization. I didn't really bother doing this. I just tend to change this file itself. Because I do actually use this config because I don't really use Vim super heavily on a day-to-day basis to warrant like setting up a very custom config. I downloaded this, it worked. I've made very minor tweaks to it. Again, like I stated, I used this to find out a bunch of what you could do in it, but other than that, it's fine for me. Now, if you use Vim very heavily, one, you probably already have your own config anyway, so you probably ain't watched this damn video. Uh, but if you started to pick up using it very frequently, and maybe you have a very specific workflow that you like to use, it would probably be better and healthier for you in the long run to set up your own config. But this is a really good resource to help see what you can do in your config. This is probably also, where is it? These are all just very basic options it has set. Again, if you have no clue what any of these are doing, let's see, map leader. This is another one that I was like, what is this doing? Help map leader. Define a mapping which uses the map leader variable. The special string leader can be used. It is replaced with the string value of map leader. So basically, if you are wanting to map a certain key combination to run a command, if you use this like leader variable in your key mapping syntax, whatever you've set as map leader will be what that key is. And I don't remember what it is by default. I just know I have seen in a lot of configs people map this character to being leader because it's conveniently very easy to reach from the home row. I don't remember what it is by default. I think by default is it. I still don't know what it is by default off the top of my head. Whatever. If you probably already know if you don't know. These are all relating to, and it's also commented very well, so you like kind of get an idea of what these are for. Like, so okay, these are searching related. This sets what your shell is. This is for session management. By the way, I don't actually really use sessions in Vim, so I don't really know what that shit does. These are more for visual, whether you have numbers on. Something it doesn't have here, and I really wish it did have this by default, and I have this turned on in that like local customization thing, is there's actually a thing called I think it's called relative number. Relative number is very useful. Like I'll show you what that is. So was it relative number? Yeah. So instead of just showing the line numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'll see in mine the line that I'm on shows the actual line number, and then everything else it shows basically the distance to that line from my current line. And this is really useful if, let's say, instead I want to go up to the session management line, the start of it. And I can see that if you just have number on, you kind of have to do like look at the line numbers and do math and figure out how many rows you have to go up and down to go move. But since you have relative number on, well, okay, it's 10, so I would just be like 10. Okay, boom, up you go. It makes it a lot faster to know how many lines you have to go up and down to get to certain positions. What else we got here? We got these are all kind of like color and appearance based. Status bar, title, status line. I think this documentation is probably big too. Status line. Yeah, it has this big gobbledygook about all the different like characters you can use in here. That's probably a little bit of a read in of itself. There's a section here, abbreviations. Yeah. So it even has all these like common like oopsie daisy typos people tend to make a lot when they're using Vim that do things they don't want them to do. So what they do is they deliberately remap them to be what they probably meant it to be. And this is another one that when I got here, I was like, what the hell is C no blah 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 blah? So this is like C no REABBREB. C no, yeah. Same as AB, but for command line only, and no remapping for this. Same as AB. What the hell is AB? Tell me what AB is. Block. Tell me that. Basically, what it is it's remapping these to be this other thing, because you'll notice what this commonly is these are errors people tend to make when they accidentally leave caps lock on, and they all of a sudden it starts doing weird shit. And you're like, wait, what's happening? It's probably because of this, and these basically kind of help you not do that. Although at the same time, you could almost argue that this is counterproductive because you'll accidentally leave caps lock on and still be working fine, not realizing you did it. You could argue that it would be better for you to make the boo boo so you kind of are able to keep better track of actually using caps lock. Nerd Tree is one of the kind of like the basic plugins that it has in this config, and this is like a file explorer for Vim. It's pretty nice. I think nerd. I don't remember what the command actually is for this. Nerd. Quit. Oh, I closed it, you idiot. Toggle? I don't remember what that is. Okay, whatever. Oh wait, it's capitalized. You yes. Nerd Tree toggle. Okay. So this is Nerd Tree. It's basically just a little file explorer. You can hit enter, open stuff, and you can hit question mark to see all the mappings. I don't tend to use this that much, so but it's a nice file explorer. Vim actually has a file explorer built into it. It's called like, was it netrw or something like that? I haven't really messed with it much. I don't really use file explorers much in Vim. Grep for doing searching, to run your terminal commands. It even has this nice little command built into it to basically just trim all the trailing white space out of your file. This is nice. I actually use this all the time. Custom functions, auto commands, and my cat's fussing. Mocha, what's the matter, baby? Let's see. This was another one that I looked up when I first was looking through it. I was like, what is AU group? Define the auto command group for the following auto commands. The name and I forget exactly what that does. Again, you just have see didn't okay. Here's a good example of where the leader thing is. So you'll see here that we see leader B. So what that means is whatever you have mapped as leader, if you press this combination, it'll run this command. These are all get, session management, tabs, fuzzy finder, silver searcher, snippets. What else we got here? Oh yeah, and if you're wondering what the whole like no remap is, was that no remap? Map the key sequence, left hand side, right hand side for the modes where the map command applies. Disallow mapping of right hand side to avoid nested and recursive mappings, often used to redefine a command. So basically what this is saying is like oftentimes this is used to remap something that has a default command to a different remap a key binding that has like a default setup to something that you can't change later. Close buffer, switching windows. This is also a really nice one too, because by default to switch windows in Vim, you have to hit Control W and then a directional, and then HJK or no. That's if you have a lot of windows open, that's really super monotonous. So this just remaps. So all you have to do is hit Control, hit Control, was it like Control H to go over to the left window, hit Control J to go down, etc., etc. This is a really nice mapping too. Visual mode mapping. See, I think this is also a really nice one. So in order to, if you're in visual mode, you can just hit one of the open or close ankle brackets, and then like boom, it'll just like move the indents. This is a really nice one too. Custom configs. These are auto commands and groupings and variables specifically for those languages you chose. So here's a JavaScript one. I think it's setting like custom like tab width and stuff for JavaScript specifically. Yats. I forget what that Yats thing is. It's one of the plugins that was installed. This is where it will read your like local custom uh, configurations. I, I I I have like a few things in this, but barely anything. Convenience variables. These are what sets the like characters and stuff, and that like is a power line is like this is that thing you see down here on the bottom here. It's like a kind of fancy looking status bar for Vim. That's setting more symbols, and that's it. Um, so again, keep in mind you don't have to use this config right out of the box. If you just want to use it as a starting place to learn like what you can do in a Vim config, it's really good for that. And if you just want to use it as is, like I did, you're free to do that too. Um, you might have people. I've seen people who are kind of, I guess, more I want to call them Vim purists that will like ridicule you for using like a pre-generated or using someone else's Vim config. But I don't necessarily agree with that. Um, if you do use someone else's config or use like a generated config like this, I would use it as a basis to learn what you can do so that you can later tweak your own. If you care about that. If you're like me and you just use it as is, whatever. That's all I got for this video. If you like the video, like, subscribe down below, share if you think anybody else be interested in it. I have links down below to follow me on things like Twitter and to join my Discord. If you would like to support your channel, which would be amazing, by the way, I have links down there below as well. I'm also starting to sync my videos to other platforms. Right now, they are being synced up to, was it BitTube right now as well? And I am waiting for Library to sync as well. So it would also soon be available on Library. And I'm contemplating doing it on BitChute, but I'll wait a little bit before I do that. And with that, that's all I got for now. Y'all come on back now, and I'll see you next time.